Most people wouldn't recognize the house if they passed it on a foggy morning. Tucked into a quiet stretch of coastline in Maine, it looked more like a weathered writer's retreat than a billionaire's vacation home. No gates. No press. No noise. That's exactly why Elon Musk had chosen it. After 3 intense product launches, 2 PR crises, and 1 particularly bitter shareholder meeting, he needed to vanish. Not just from headlines, but from his own mind. So for the first time in years, he powered down. No phone calls, no conference rooms. Just him, a few books, a stack of blank notebooks, and his 9-year-old daughter, Layla. Layla wasn't like most kids born into wealth and visibility. She liked stormy skies more than sunny ones, asked questions no adult could easily answer, and kept a notebook of people I want to understand. That notebook was nearly full. There was one other person in the house, Marian. 50 years old, quiet, observant. She wasn't a nanny, not exactly. More like a caretaker. She'd worked with Elon's family for a few years. A soft voice, a scar across her right palm, and hands that could make the flakiest buttermilk biscuits Layla had ever tasted. She moved like someone trying not to take up too much space. Elon barely noticed her. But Layla did. On the 3rd morning, Layla patted down the old wooden stairs in socks. The wind was sharp outside, rattling the window panes. She was looking for her drawing pencils, but paused near her father's small study. The door was slightly open. She wasn't supposed to go in. But something tugged at her. The study was Elon's thinking room. Filled with sketches of Mars rovers, folded origami from board meetings, and a telescope that looked like it had survived a war. Layla loved this room. It smelled like cedar and graphite and memories. And this morning, Marian was inside. Layla froze. Marian didn't notice her. She moved quickly, opening a narrow cabinet. Her hand shook slightly as she pulled out a small canvas pouch. From it, she took out cash. Folded, neat, methodical. Not a lot, but enough to make Layla's stomach tighten. Marian looked around once. Twice. Then tucked the money into her coat pocket, closed the drawer, and walked out without ever seeing the girl standing silently in the shadows. Layla didn't follow. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, notebook pressed against her chest, her thoughts spinning faster than she could name. That night, after dinner, Elon and Layla sat on the porch. The sea was dark and loud, waves slamming against the rocks like drums. Elon was scrolling through something on his tablet, but Layla wasn't looking at the screen. "Dad," she said quietly, "what's the difference between doing something bad and being a bad person?" The question hung in the salty air. Elon looked up. "That's a big question." She didn't blink. "I know." He set the tablet aside. "Well, I guess doing something bad means you made a bad choice. Being a bad person means you keep choosing it, even when you know better." Layla nodded slowly, but her eyes stayed on the horizon. "What if someone takes something but doesn't want to hurt anyone?" she asked. "What if they're just scared?" Elon's brows drew together. "Is this about a book you're reading?" She hesitated. "Sort of." Elon didn't press. He rarely did. Layla had always come to her own conclusions, in her own time. Later that evening, she watched Marian more closely. The woman's hands moved quickly, almost nervously. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. And when she thought no one was looking, she stepped into the pantry and stood there for longer than necessary. Just breathing. Just holding herself. Layla didn't interrupt. She wrote in her notebook. The next morning was still and gray, the kind of morning where even the birds seemed to whisper. Marian made breakfast like she always did, eggs scrambled gently with cream, toast buttered to the edges, and a small mug of cocoa for Layla with exactly 2 marshmallows. Elon barely looked up from his coffee. But Layla watched. She noticed the way Marian's shoulders were slightly hunched. The way she double-checked the drawer where the utensils were, then checked it again a few seconds later. the way her eyes flickered to the hallway every time she walked past it. There was a kind of ache in the air, the kind you only notice when you're paying attention. After breakfast, Marian offered to walk down the road to pick up fresh bread from the local bakery. Layla nodded politely, then turned to her father once Marian stepped outside. "Dad," she asked softly, "do you ever feel like helping someone, even when they've done something wrong?" Elon set down his mug. "Depends on what they did," he said. "Why do you ask?" Layla didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into her notebook and handed him a sketch. It was simple, but telling. 3 figures. One was Marian, drawn with a sad curve to her shoulders. One was Layla, holding a small tray of cocoa. And the last was a figure in shadow, saying nothing, but standing close. Below the drawing were 6 words. "Sometimes scared people make odd choices." Elon studied the sketch for a long moment. Then he stood up and walked quietly to the study. Inside the cabinet, tucked behind a few folded schematics and a book on propulsion theory, was the pouch. The one Marian had taken from. He knew it well. Inside, he kept spare cash. Emergency use, staff bonuses, or last-minute donations for local causes. It wasn't counted often. But as soon as his hand closed around it, he knew. It was lighter. He closed the pouch, exhaled, and looked out the window. The sea was restless. So was his mind. That night, as Layla fell asleep with a book resting on her chest, Elon opened his laptop in the study. He clicked through the home's internal security feed, not for surveillance, but for pattern analysis. He'd once joked that humans were just walking algorithms with feelings. But this time, he wasn't looking for behavior. He was looking for truth. He rewound to the morning before. There she was. Marian, slipping quietly into the study. Her movements fast, deliberate. Her eyes darting. Her hands trembling just slightly as she unzipped the pouch and removed the cash. She didn't count it. She didn't smile. She looked burdened. Elon watched the footage twice. Then he turned off the screen and just sat there, staring at his own reflection in the darkened window. Something in him twisted. Because it wasn't just about the money. It was about what it meant, for him, for Layla, for the woman who'd been trusted in their home. He remembered Layla's question. "Do you ever feel like helping someone even when they've done something wrong?" And now, that question was staring back at him. Demanding a response not as a CEO, not as a public figure, but as a father. The next morning, Elon waited until Marian returned from the bakery. She came into the kitchen, cheeks pink from the wind, holding a paper bag filled with warm loaves. "Marian," he said gently, "could you join us in the sunroom?" She froze for a split second. Just long enough. Then she nodded. They sat across from each other, with Layla on the window seat between them, a stuffed otter in her lap. Marian's hands were clasped so tightly, the knuckles were white. Elon didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse. He simply asked, "Is there something you want to tell me?" Marian didn't speak for a long time. Then, her voice barely above a whisper, she said, "Yes." Her eyes were glassy. Her mouth trembled. "I took it," she continued. "I'm sorry." Layla looked at her. Not shocked. Just listening. "Why?" Elon asked. Marian blinked hard, then reached into her coat pocket. She pulled out a folded paper, unfolded it slowly with fingers that had clearly rehearsed this a dozen times. It was a medical invoice. Elon recognized the logo of a local clinic. "My sister," Marian said. "She has early-stage cancer. She's uninsured. I didn't know what else to do. I was going to pay it back. I couldn't ask." Her voice broke. "Shame is a strange thing," she whispered. "It makes you do things you swore you never would." The room was quiet. Layla shifted off the seat, walked to Marian, and placed a small hand on hers. "I saw," she said simply. "But I didn't tell Dad." Because I didn't think you were bad. Just scared. Marian's breath caught. Her eyes welled up. Elon, sitting across the table, felt something stir in his chest, something heavier than disappointment, deeper than anger. It was the kind of weight you feel when a system you built fails to notice someone drowning. And the rescue doesn't come from tech. It comes from a child. That evening, after Marian had gone to lie down, her face pale from the tears she finally allowed, Elon and Layla sat outside under a blanket, a small fire crackling in the pit near their feet. Layla held a mug of cocoa. Elon held something he hadn't touched in a long time, silence. I didn't want her to get in trouble, Layla said softly, looking up at the stars. I just wanted someone to notice. Elon looked at her, the flickering firelight catching her cheekbones, her eyes older than her age. You did something most adults wouldn't have, he said. You waited. You watched. You tried to understand first. Layla nodded. Marian looked like someone who was trying not to cry. I know what that feels like. They sat in the hush for a while, wrapped in the warmth of something more than just the blanket. And then, quietly, Elon said, we'll help her. Not because she deserves it, but because she needs it. And because we can. The next day, Elon made 3 phone calls. One to his private legal team. One to the local clinic where Marian's sister was being treated. And one to his personal finance director, asking for a transfer to be made discreetly. No fanfare. No media. Just help. He left no digital signature. No one in his team would mention it. He asked for the name MH to be listed as the anonymous donor. Marian never saw the receipt. But a week later, her sister was transferred to a better facility, bills paid in full. That afternoon, when Marian received the news through a trembling phone call, she didn't scream. She didn't even speak. She just walked into the garden, sank to her knees in the grass, and cried, deep, grateful, cleansing sobs. Layla, from the kitchen window, saw her. She didn't interrupt. She just placed her palm flat on the glass and whispered, "Someone saw you." Later that night, Elon sat at the old writing desk in the study, the same desk Marian had opened just a week before. He reached into the drawer, not to check anything, but to place something inside. A note. Not typed. Handwritten. Title, What My Daughter Taught Me. Layla didn't ask, why did Marian take the money? She asked, why was she afraid? She didn't argue for punishment. She argued for understanding. She didn't defend what was done. She defended who someone still was. This is not a story about theft. This is a story about being seen, being forgiven, and what it means to be truly powerful, not by force, but by grace. He folded the paper and tucked it behind a stack of old engineering drawings. Then he sat in the dark. And for the first time in months, he let the stillness settle without resisting it. The following weekend, Elon picked Layla up from a local nature class, a small program that taught children how to identify seashells, tide patterns, and constellations. She climbed into the car, damp curls sticking to her forehead, cheeks flushed. How was it? He asked. We saw a jellyfish and I named it Gerald, she grinned. He doesn't like being stared at. Elon laughed. How can you tell? Because he kept swimming sideways. They drove for a while in silence. Then, just as the car curved around a bend overlooking the Atlantic, Layla asked, Dad, do you think Marian's sister will be okay? Elon thought for a moment. I think she has a better chance now. Layla nodded. Do you think Marian still did something wrong? Yes, Elon said, but that's not all she is. There was a pause. Is that why you didn't fire her? Yes, he said again, slower this time. Because she's more than a mistake. And we all need someone who believes that. Layla turned to the window, watching the horizon stretch into forever. That night, a package arrived at the house. No return address. Inside was a small book titled, The Girl Who Waited Before Speaking. On the inside cover, 2 handwritten notes. To Layla. You didn't protect me from consequences. You protected me from being reduced to a single moment. Thank you for not turning away. To Elon. Sometimes being seen is scarier than being punished. But being believed is how people start again. Elon closed the book and placed it on the shelf in the study, right where the cash box used to be. Days passed. Then a week. Then 2. Nothing dramatic happened. Marian still made breakfast, though now with a quiet hum in her voice. Layla still carried her notebook everywhere, now including a sketch of a jellyfish named Gerald on page 40. And Elon? Elon had begun to change. Not in ways the world would notice. There were no tweets, no press releases. But something inside him had tilted, ever so slightly. A realignment of gravity. He now paused before responding. He now listened for what wasn't said. And when Layla asked questions, he stopped treating them as philosophical puzzles to be solved, but as truths she already partly understood, just waiting to be named. One evening, they sat on the back deck watching the tide roll in. Layla was piecing together a cardboard model of a Martian greenhouse. Elon was watching her fingers work, quiet and focused. "Dad," she said suddenly, not looking up, "why do people call you powerful?" Elon smiled faintly. "Because I make big things. Rockets. Cars. Satellites." Layla tilted her head. "But you couldn't fix Marian's fear with any of that, could you?" The question hit him like a quiet thunderclap. "No," he said honestly. "I couldn't." "So what's real power, then?" Elon paused. Then set down his drink. "Maybe real power is when you choose to make someone feel safe, even if they made you feel uncomfortable first. Real power isn't in building machines. It's in building trust." Layla smiled, satisfied. That night, Elon couldn't sleep. He returned to his study, opened the drawer, and looked again at the note he'd written. Then he pulled out the book Marian had sent. On the title page, he added something in his own handwriting. "Sometimes the people who break the rules are the ones trying hardest to hold something else together." He stared at those words. Then he did something unexpected. He logged into his private blog, one only a few close friends ever read, and posted a reflection titled, "The Day My Daughter Taught Me Power." He didn't name names. He didn't frame himself as a hero. He simply wrote, "Grace isn't a soft concept. It's strength, held back. And sometimes the smallest hands are the ones that rebuild us." 2 weeks later, back in California, Elon received a letter. It was from a man named Henry, Marian's younger brother. Typed carefully, but with a shaky signature at the bottom. "Mr. Musk, I don't know exactly what happened between you, my sister, and your daughter. But I know that I'm alive today because of it. I spent a long time thinking people only saw me as a burden. But now I know someone out there saw my sister as someone worth keeping. That gave me more hope than the medicine." Enclosed with the letter was a photograph, Marian and Henry, sitting on a hospital bench, sunlight slanting across their faces. Both smiling. On the back, Henry had scribbled, "She didn't lose her job. She got her sister back." Elon pinned it inside the same drawer, next to Layla's drawing. Real power doesn't come from controlling outcomes, it comes from choosing to stay present when retreating would be easier, from listening instead of judging, from remaining when someone's mess makes you want to walk away. Forgiveness, contrary to what many believe, isn't weakness, it's wisdom in action. Elon Musk didn't become less of a leader when he forgave Marian, he became more of a father by allowing his daughter to lead with compassion and grace. If this story stirred something within you, perhaps it's time to explore that feeling further. The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown is a powerful reminder that courage and vulnerability are the roots of true connection and quiet strength. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl offers a profound exploration of human suffering, choice, and the freedom to find purpose even in the darkest of times. So if you've ever felt invisible, unheard, or questioned whether kindness still matters, know this: someone is always watching, and they might choose grace because you did first. The next time you see someone stumble, don't just ask what they did. Ask why. And maybe, just maybe, hand them the blueprint to begin again.